Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the school board will continue to closed session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data over any public employee for which the government providing has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 per N1 per NC, considering compensation and performance evaluation. We don't have any guests here, so I presume there are no community comments. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and that includes a donation from Ron Michael to the Hall of Fame fund of $500. Thank you very much. Administrative reports, we'll start with Mr. Hills.
Thank you. Just would like to draw attention to a couple of events that we've been able to hold or are coming up. The first one was the fifth graders versus the staff football game. If you have access to Facebook, I recommend going on there. There's some neat pictures, a video that kind of shows some of the highlights. Kids have a really good time as well, not just the ones playing, but the ones in the stands. And a lot of credit goes to Mrs. Wiesner for putting a lot of that stuff together. She does a great job from the press box, keeping the music going and keeping the kids engaged and entertained. So kudos to her, to the fifth grade teachers, especially Mrs. Rickla, for helping organize the game portion. And then the second thing to draw attention to is the Ecolab trick-or-treat event that comes up at the end of the month. Just something that was really cool that came out of COVID. There was that need, an opportunity for kids to go trick-or-treating when they couldn't go out in the community. And it's something that's carried on. The really great thing about it is it's turned into a math assignment, a real-world math assignment for the kids in second grade. Was talking to those teachers today, and they said this particular group will really benefit from that, getting a chance to group the candies into groups of 10, and then from there groups of 100 and 1,000. It's just neat for them to get that hands-on experience for something that is meaningful, that they're going to see later, and impacts others in the school community. So it's a really neat project that's carried on.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Part of our initiative at the middle school, high school level is to start PLC teams. It's professional learning communities where we get our teachers to get together and collaborate a little bit more and take some deeper dives into assessments and practicing good, implementing good instructional practices, but having that collaboration to kind of work with each other on how we can improve our instructional practices, look at our assessments, making sure that we are appropriately challenging our students with a diversity of depth of knowledge questions, so we can take also a look at student data and then apply that to our lessons, our formative assessments, our interim assessments, and then of course the end of the year assessments. And I'm really proud of our high school staff and middle school staff, but primarily the high school staff, because this has been a big change for them in our pursuit of wanting to continue with academic achievement and student growth as our mission. And we had 3 staff members go to a CISA 7 training, which was actually a 3-day training over 2 weeks down in Green Bay, and I was able to attend that with them on 2 of the 3 days. And I put in my notes, I've been in education for over 26 years, and quite honestly, it was probably one of my most invigorating, exciting professional development opportunities, as the amount of knowledge and what was gained and taken from there is exciting for how teachers can support one another and make sure that we are putting together rigorous curriculums, challenging our students, helping them grow, and then doing that collectively and with shared responsibility in our meetings. So we learned a lot of valuable things in there, how to examine assessments, how to take a look at learning intentions, taking a deeper dive in depth of knowledge questions. Like for example, a depth of knowledge question 1 would be like a recall question, where depth of knowledge 3 and 4 require a lot more critical thinking, and depending on the coursework and what you're doing, determines a lot of that. And it was really great because a lot of staff were vulnerable and shared their assessments with me, which I was able to take there and dissect and look and see, hey, here's what we're doing that's really good and areas where we can grow. So it was really exciting, it was awesome, and I think it's going to be a great move for our staff and our students moving forward. So very exciting.
Troy, would you mind if I share your comments about the CISA 7 training with the CISA admin?
No, that'd be great.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I know they always appreciate those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, the Kim Pencil was one of the leaders there.
Okay.
She is exceptional.
Okay.
She does a great job of facilitating it. She, just when you think you're trying to get an answer from her, she won't give it to you. She keeps questioning you, so you think
Good.
a lot. And it was great. It really was. It was an
Good. Glad
enjoyable.
to do that. Thanks for sharing that.
Ms. Markgraf is not here tonight, so Superintendent will give her report.
Thank you. A couple of things we want to highlight is that we have our child find. This is for our early kids in our area looking for an opportunity to get in for early screening, and that is on October 22nd. And the other piece that I would like to highlight on her report is the initiative that really she did a lot of championing with is the Screenager event, giving opportunity for our community to get a better understanding around the impact of screen time, video games, and social media, and how it's important for us as parents to continue to monitor what our kids are doing and ensuring to keep them safe in that virtual world that we have. So great opportunities for you to get involved with what your students are doing in the stage and age of technology that we have today. Dates to highlight, the first one coming up, Sevastopol is hosting on October 29th at Tuesday, and it's called Growing Up in the Digital Age. So mark it on your calendars, and we hope to see you out. In the spring, it's going to be here quicker than we know it. We have set our ACT date for March 18th, right here in Sevastopol, so all of our juniors will be taking the ACT. The next component, and I'll talk a little bit about it in my update, is that the state assessment data has come out preliminary. Our report cards were released on October 3rd for us as a district to review our data to ensure that everything has been reported accurately, and it will come out on November 19th. At that point in time, we'll review the data with the board. Mr. Schaefer already mentioned the CISA project that we're doing. A huge shout out to the teachers, Carol Schumacher, Kim Wagner, and Mindy Vanderhook, for championing that work inside of the high school along with Mr. Schaefer. You'll also have the summary of our actual student count of special education students. And that completes my report.
What time is that on the 29th?
That's a great question, Sue.
Screenagers?
Yeah.
6 to 8 o'clock,
6 to 8.
right in here.
6 to 8?
Yep.
Okay. I've been reading The Anxious Generation, which deals with the same kind of thing. So,
How do we get that information? To me, this one, the whole issue of visual aids is, I believe, a huge challenge for us. How do we get that information? That we get them to better understand us. There's a lot of data coming out now. Because you see kids at 3, 4, 5 with their devices. It really, some data is not showing it really is brain development. And it actually changes brain pathways, which could be quite serious and long. Not to mention all the other problems with it. How do we get our parents knowledgeable in this area?
That's the start with the Screenager and the conversations, is bringing our parents in to start the dialogue, sharing the information up on the website, keeping people as informed as possible. We're in a changing stage, right? And what's really important for us is to give parents the tools that we have available to us so that they can then make the decisions at home for their parenting.
So how do they know about it?
So we put this out in our newsletters. So in our building newsletters, I'm looking at Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Hiltz, but it's also posted up on our website.
And we've got a couple reminders on Facebook. One may have come out, another one coming closer to the event.
I'm scared parents don't even understand this is a serious problem. That's only talked about in upper echelons and research papers and all that stuff. It scares me to Jesus for this generation of kids that just know nothing about it.
Did the research paper bring up some method of communicating effectively with parents?
I just read the
Oh, sorry.
But, I don't know, I think it's just, I think it's an issue that is brewing and we're going to blow apart sometime. It's not going to be good.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you. A couple of updates. Primary focus has been the informational sessions. Since our last board meeting, we've had 2 informational sessions. We've done another presentation at our local town halls. And coming up this next week, we have our last session at Egg Harbor, and we have our last informational session on December 23rd at 4 o'clock. We are hitting the ground pretty hard with referendum information videos and posting a new video every week. It hits Facebook first, and then it's connected to our website. We fielded a few questions in our email inbox, and when we receive those questions, we send them out with an answer, and then we try to update the FAQ so that everybody can get the same information. Again, if there's questions out there, I ask you to direct them to me. I'll get the answers out, and then we'll share it with the community. Overall, we've had a very low turnout at the information session, so this is a huge plug to come out to the last information session or to the Egg Harbor Town Hall meeting at 6 o'clock next Monday. And if you have questions, again, I can't reiterate, please reach out and ask. We've hit the community with a flyer that gives them information about what the referendum is about. The district newsletter will be coming out this week, which has 2 full pages about referendum information. And then we'll do a follow-up towards the end of October to all of our parents, just kind of recapping the purpose of the referendum and what the impact is going to be.
Where is our annual meeting yet? How do we publicize the annual meeting next week?
Yep, so the annual meeting is publicized in 3 different places. It's put up on our website, we put it out on Facebook, and we tried to get it in the town hall, but we were not successful in getting it out in the town hall, just next door to post it. And then we also have it posted in the newspaper. Yes, yeah. So those are our 3 places for the annual meeting. So the annual meeting is next week, Tuesday, for budget information and state of the district information.
You could,
Is that 6:30?
call the radio station, WDOR, they would put it on their like community bulletin board announcements at no charge, which they would do a couple times a day.
It'd be on our billboard, electronic sign probably. Yeah.
Yeah, we can post it there.
I can do that.
Lastly, I just want to do a huge shout out. So for those of you who are aware, the state recalibrated the state assessment, and the state assessment data is out, and Sevastopol continues to perform in the excellence category. When we look at our overall math scores, the state average is 53%, meet or exceed state expectation. Sevastopol is at 84.3%. It's 30% more of our students in mathematics are at or above grade level. In science, the state is at 49.8, Sevastopol is at 79.4. And in English language arts, the state is at 51.3, Sevastopol is at 78%. This is public data, you can find it on the DPI website, but a huge shout out to our staff, to our students, to our parents for the ongoing instructional support of excellence in our community.
Playing off that a little bit, in regard to the referendum, Heather Film-Spence is going to be doing a series of informational ads on the radio station, highlighting data like that, data like, with the top 3% of the state. So you could listen to them, those will probably start coming out into this week and next week in the morning news hours. The informational session on the 23rd, this next Wednesday, I can't be here. I've got a planning commission meeting I have to attend, so I don't know if that's a Wednesday, is that a CISA? Is there,
No.
if anybody else can attend on the 23rd,
I can be
I
there.
think it's at 4 o'clock.
I'm pretty sure I have it on my
We
calendar.
have somebody here. And then we may,
Yes, I'll be here.
I don't know, talk to me, we may be doing this, we may not. Years ago, we used to do kids go to town halls. We'd have a booth set up where the kids, they'd talk about elections in schools, and the kids would come to the town hall and they'd cast their vote for president or the referendum. They'd get a sticker, come back to school, the class that had the most, highest percentage got ice cream or something, but they got their parents to come to the town hall and vote. The town halls, a couple of them won't let us do that this time, because it's going to be a contested election, and they expect a lot of observers. So we may be doing that here, and setting up stations where the kids would, they talk about it in their classrooms, not who to vote for, but the right to vote. They'd come down, there'd be a little registration table where they have to register, show their ID like their parents did, vote. So if anybody is interested in helping with that, maybe thought that the National Honor Society could help, but they maybe can't man it all day. So if anybody wants to be involved in that, let me know, and if we pull it together, we could use a couple of people to help. Committee reports. Communication committee focused, like everything is almost now just really focused on the last newsletter, which will come out, I think, this Friday, with a lot of referendum information and photos that would.
What is the question? For those of you, excuse me, who have been on this board in the form of a meeting and have gone through other referendums, the lack of anything with the community on it really has been pretty quiet. Has that been good? Is that normal or not normal?
I didn't know.
I just remember the last one with building, and we had the CFAC, so they helped tremendously get the word out to their neighbors.
I don't know if it was that.
35 people in that.
I don't know if it was that one or the one in 2020 where we had some real no signs in the community.
Yeah.
I think the challenge this time is going to be the town of Sevastopol reassessment, because people have this unknown about their tax liability. They received an assessment, and I still hear people say that their taxes are going to skyrocket because their assessment skyrocketed.
Well, we'll know, well, we already know the mill rate, but,
We know our mill rate, but we don't know the town hasn't released their mill rate, so people don't know their total.
for Sevastopol?
They don't know their total tax bill. They know what
Oh,
they're paying for
well,
Sevastopol.
yeah. I mean, the other components of the tax. bill.
That's the challenge there. People might look at schools, they'll rate the mill rate. What I hear is rate the mill rate drop, but I don't know my total tax bill. That's where I think the challenge is going to be.
We don't have any control, obviously.
We don't, but
It affects the city.
we don't, but I think that's, so, we don't know.
Okay.
Policy committee?
You will see some of our work a little bit later in the agenda. And then we do have another meeting coming up on the 24th of October. So it's a busy time for our committee.
have the budget report in your packet. This is not the next budget, but I guess this is the financial summary report. We did receive $197,000 in sparsity aid, so that was a big chunk of aids received. The remainder of the payment is expected in November. We made adjustments in the budget to reclassify some expenditures, so if you see some line items that don't have a budgeted item, it's because I haven't done the reclassing journal entries yet to move things around. So we'll clean those things up, but otherwise things are moving along nicely for the year.
How does that sparsity aid compare to last year?
It'll be approximately the same.
Thank you.
Anything for facilities? Nothing to report. Then we have this, we have the Sevastopol Town Park Memorandum of Agreement.
This is as it was last year, there's no changes to the agreement.
And that
Yeah, we had a meeting.
process is going fine?
Yeah, going well, there's little things. One of the things, part of the agreement was always to have a roadmap or a list of future projects so that both organizations can work on that. So that's something that's kind of always ongoing and we have a list of topics, but the meat of the agreement was good.
Good. I would take a motion on that then.
Move to approve the Sevastopol Town Park Memorandum of Agreement. Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then the preliminary budget for 24-25.
Hey, sorry, that came up all the way.
As Tasha's getting set up, I just want to take a moment to publicly thank her for the work that she has done in setting up the district budget for 24-25. She just started last spring, and her knowledge and her expertise in finance just shows through and through, and her commitment to the Sevastopol School District goes beyond none. So a huge thank you for the work that she's put together in a very short period of time, and understanding where we are as a district and where we need to go.
We're a breath of fresh.
Thank you. Well, I don't have to introduce myself because there's no one here that doesn't know me. So we're going to go through the 24-25 annual budget. This is known as the preliminary budget because the official budget will be approved next week after the annual board meeting. There we go. Okay, so some things to address first in School Budgeting 101 is we're all very aware of our revenue limits. The state statute caps the resources that are available to the district. In 24-25's budget, our amount is capped at $11,666.82 per pupil. These limits are based on the number of resident students using a 3-year rolling average. Equalization aid is defined by our student numbers, our property value, and our shared costs. So because Sevastopol has a high property value and high shared costs, the district receives very minimal equalization aid, which is actually $3,600 roughly next year. That will continue to decrease by 15% per year until we are below the threshold where they pay us anything, and then it'll just be zero.
What is this town like? What is it district like? Certainly.
I didn't compare, I didn't go through comparisons, but at our WASBO conference, they said Sevastopol is in what he calls the death spiral. You're going down until you're at nothing, and there's no getting out of it. So, and the last thing that we are watching and we're aware of is the state budget, the state biennial budget. Right now, we are looking at an increase in the per pupil amount of $325 per year, and that is ongoing at this point. Doesn't mean that will stick. With the other required revenue limit deductions, including voucher school deductions and everything, it translated into about $50,000 for the district in the next year. So I want to talk just a little bit about the budget timeline and what a typical budget timeline is. As you can see from the timeline that you have on the screen, there are many months of effort that is put into the budget from employees across the organization. We, right down to our teachers, our administrators, everyone is involved in this process. And there are revisions and discussions taking place from the very beginning until the very end of the process. In addition, we are often looking several years ahead when it comes to key pieces of the budget and to those large purchases. One of the things that I find interesting with school budgeting is that you start in July and you have this preliminary budget and you're using it, but you don't approve it until the end of October. We don't actually get those aid estimates or those aid numbers until October 15th. So they came out yesterday and we revised information yesterday, and that's why you have handouts tonight. So I just want to go through some highlights of the budget for the 24-25 year. As you know, the tax levy we set as being unchanged. So we're setting a $12.1 million overall tax levy. This will be the third consecutive year of no change in the levy. In order to keep the tax levy flat, the district is using existing fund balance to offset the cost increases. The fund balance is expected to decrease from about 39% to about 25%. The district will be short-term borrowing to meet our cash flow obligations. General fund expenditures are increasing about $680,000. The increases are in staffing costs, district insurance, and transfers to other funds. Special education costs are also increasing. That's generally related to staffing and transportation. In the debt service fund, the district is planning to defease additional debt. So what you will see in this year's budget for debt service is the defeasance we did a couple of weeks ago and paid October 2nd. So we will see another defeasance in next year's budget with this year's levy. And then our food service expenditures are budgeted to increase 13%, and $20,000 has been budgeted to replace some equipment in the food services area. We've had some challenges with this budget, as you might have guessed. Staffing costs continue to increase. It's been more and more difficult to find people to fill roles, and that's from teachers to custodians to bus drivers. Any employee is difficult to come by at this point. The district has also had to contend with an increase in health insurance expenses. As you know, we had one bidder on health insurance. We changed the plan style, the plan type to save costs, and we still ended up with an 18.9% increase. There are some deferred maintenance items that the district now has to deal with and has to either repair or make a plan to repair. Although we built a very new portion of the school, we still have an aged structure. There are roof replacements, there are outbuilding repairs, parking lots that need a ceiling, HVAC needs, and everything else to plan for. So the Buildings and Grounds Committee has been tackling those issues and is working on creating a comprehensive plan. ESSER funds. ESSER funds were funds provided by the federal government related to COVID. Those funds have now been exhausted. The district received $490,000 in ESSER funds over the course of 3 years. Those funds help to offset the cost of reopening, the cost of mental health, and some learning loss. Last year, the district received $217,000 in ESSER funds, and the district now has to absorb those costs, or we would have to change our program. And as you know, we had administrative turnover. Although we were able to fill the positions in the district office and the turnover that we experienced there, it still creates a challenge because we lose institutional knowledge. And it creates inconsistencies in the process. It can also be said, though, that a fresh pair of eyes and some inquisitive minds can also help the process. And finally, we obviously are continuing to contend with revenue limits and the referendum. We're still under the last referendum. And the revenue cap only accounts for about half of the district's budgeted fund balance, or budgeted levy, sorry. Getting into some some of the details that make up how we got where we are. One of the things I wanted to look at is enrollment data. If you look at the gold line, that is the total head count, and the cream colored line there is the DPI enrollment. In this graph, you can see that there's a large discrepancy between the head count and the DPI enrollment data, and there was an inflection point around 2013, 2014. This is almost entirely related to open enrollment. In about 2013, 2014, we went from a district that had primarily open enroll outs to primarily open enroll ins. And that stayed pretty flat, pretty even for the next few years until right before COVID. And then we started to see our open enroll ins continue to grow. And that's why you see the gold and the cream lines continue to diverge.
Sorry, explain the difference between DPI and enrollment. And
So-
total head count. Okay, total head count, I get, that's actually the kids in our building.
Yep, the
What is
head count is the
DPI?
kids in the building, and then when we adjust for DPI, we take out the kids that aren't residents of our district, and we add in the kids that have open enrolled somewhere else, because those are residents of our district. And then we also count any homeschool kids who come in and are part-time students. What am I missing? I've done this
So
before
the
one
DPI
time.
number is, which number do we use for driving our budget?
The cream line drives our budget.
The DPI enrollment. And then the DPI head count, I mean, the total head count for kids that are enrolling in, isn't there some cash transfer from the school district?
There is.
For the record?
Yep,
I
about-
just didn't understand.
They're about 13,500 per year now is what we get in aid per student. So
So you'd rather have the graph this way than the reverse, right?
yeah,
What you're seeing is we have 540 students that live and reside within the school district.
Okay.
Then we have a population of 601 students that we have in our building, and that discrepancy is students that have open enrolled and along with students that are open enrolled out. So not all 540, just estimating, that are sitting there. Some of those kids actually go somewhere else, but we're to the net positive of about 100 students. So we have 190 coming in and we have about 100 going out.
Yeah, I was trying to get the takeaway from this, it's a data point.
You get the data for the other schools?
Yeah, you can, it's public data.
So this is something to problem.
okay. In this graph, I've overlaid the red area is looking at what we had per pupil amount in 2011 and adjusting that for inflation. And the line that you see that goes through the top of that part of that graph is our actual per pupil revenue limit. So our per pupil revenue limit, as I already stated, is about $11,600. If we had an inflation adjusted per pupil revenue limit, it would be $14,600.
And the state staff adjusting in 2009.
In 2009. Okay, so if we get into the details of the budget, and we are looking at the general fund revenue, we can see that taxes clearly make up the bulk of our revenue. We receive state and federal aids for specific programming or grants, and we receive open enrollment revenues from other districts. Those are the big portions of our general fund revenues. I want to point out a couple of changes from the budget information that was published in the newspaper and from the budget information that was provided to you prior to the meeting. We got final information on the revenue limit, and taxes allocated to the general fund can increase about $28,000. So it's not that our levy changes at all, it's that we move that money from defeasance, from debt, into our general fund to support our students. In addition, state and categorical aids changed slightly and increased about $40,000. Our per pupil aid rose approximately $10,000, and we also will be receiving personal property aid payments as a result of Act 12 for about $30,000. And that's a one-time adjustment. Our total revenue increased about $69,000 from the originally published version that's in the paper. Our general fund revenues are up about $140,000 from the prior budget, but down from the prior year actuals. So to put that into context and why that is, the actuals came in above budget because of high-cost transportation aid. We didn't budget for that to see that again because that was a very large shock to us as to what we received, and I don't know that we can count on those dollars again. We also had lease proceeds. Lease proceeds, we entered into a new lease agreement for some technology. It's an accounting announcement, and it's a non-cash item. So we put it on our books, but there's also an expenditure related to it, and they wash. So it's something that basically don't worry about, is what I would tell you. In 24-25, the district will receive about $160,000 more in open enrollment revenue, but we are losing the ESSER funds. So, any questions about general fund revenue? In our general fund expenditures, the bulk of our expenditures are going towards instructional services. Non-instructional support services would include our administrative staff, physical and occupational therapy, guidance and counseling, nursing, psychology, technology, transportation, those kind of things. So our non-instructional services are also very important to us, our support services. The non-program services, what you see in the tan color, is what we have for our transfers to special education and food services, our open enrollment expenses, our voucher expenses, and other items. A change, again, I want to point out from the published budget, we received the final amount, the total for the amount owed for voucher schools. We had estimated about $25,000. That's about what it was last year. It was about $22,000 last year. We owe $53,679 this year, so they more than doubled. Total general fund expenditures are budgeted to be over $875,000 more than the prior year. The bulk of that cost, $360,000, is in instructional services, and that's primarily related to staffing costs. Support services are up about $195,000. That increase is coming from the voucher program support, insurance increases, various staffing increases, and some operational cost increases. Our non-program costs have increased about $320,000, and that's primarily in those transfers to special education and food services. So in special education, the revenues that we see are up about 19%. That's because our costs are also up 19%, and we have to make those match. We get a little bit of state categorical aids, but primarily we are supporting our special education fund through transfer from the general fund. Our expenditures, special education programming would not be possible without our staff. Our staffing costs make up the majority of those expenses. Our non-program costs are related to tuition for students attending other learning centers. Okay, moving on to referendum approved debt. So we have all of our debt located in Fund 39, which is referendum approved debt. In this graph, you can see our budgeted year and our future years. The brown in this graph in 24-25 and 25-26 is the actual or the anticipated debt defeasance. The 24-25 amount is the amount we paid on October 2nd. After the 25-26 year, we're not predicting the ability to defease more debt. Our principal and interest payments will hold steady. This graph is showing that we have principal payments going out into 35-36. But what I'm not able to show is, because we have not discussed it or decided, where this brown is going to fall and take out some rent. Okay? So this brown will reduce some of the red in the future years, whether we take it off the end or whether we do what we did here and lower some of the costs throughout the years. So that's left to be discussed at a future date.
This is an accounting point. Help me understand how the principal, you can't just increase what you're paying. Should that be decreasing?
The principal amount, we have, the way they're structured when we initially put the debt out, they're structured to stay as, keep the overall amount as flat as possible.
This is
But
a
then-
payment, these numbers are payments,
Those are payments.
so as we go further out, we're paying more principal and less interest.
Yes.
I thought this was the total principal what we're doing.
Yep, and then you do see a little dip here before it goes back up a little bit. That's because we took this defeasance and we laid it over some of these costs in the middle in order to help reduce the tax levy. Okay, food services. I have the revenues and the expenditures both on this slide. Food services is funded, not entirely, but funded largely by transfers, by charges to students, and by federal aid for healthy nutrition. Our food services fund applied for and received a grant that is aimed at increasing the healthy breakfast choices for our students. That $16,000 grant is split over 2 years, so that is part of our revenues for this year. And our expenditures are generally related to staffing costs, food supplies, and a couple of capital items. So in summary, this is the proposed property taxes. I've broken down the levy by portion. Again, the levy is being held at $12.1 million, and our mill rate is decreasing from $5.06 per thousand to $4.46. Mill rate by use, primarily going to Fund 10 to our instructional services. $1.40 going to debt, and then about 1 cent is going to our community services fund. And if we want to put the vouchers payments in context, that's 2 cents on our levy. So this graph shows our tax levy throughout the years. You can see that we're trying to flatten it out towards the end. We also can show our mill rate in comparison to our equalization value. You can see that the equalization value is rising very, very quick. The district does not get to take advantage of the change in equalized value. Again, we're based entirely off of pupil count, so. In the end, this budget is designed around the district's mission, which is pioneering the next generation with a focus on high academic standards, character growth, and social emotional skill development. At Sevastopol, we want to keep our high-quality staff, we want to keep our programming, and we want to continue to build our community through educating our children and equipping them with the skills they need to succeed. We believe this budget will allow us to continue to successfully meet those goals. And I do have my email address if anyone who's watching the video or anyone has questions, so.
And you will share this at the annual meeting.
Yes. Yep, you guys get to listen to it twice.
Woohoo! Excellent presentation, thank you.
Yeah, it was really good.
Very good.
So the ESSER funds,
Yes.
as I recall, those, you said we're not gonna get like 200 and some.
Right,
So, but
we used them all.
we used them all. But, so we have programs in place that we use ESSER funds for and we keep going, because what I recall, Kyle said we have to get rid of those things, like we have a math interventionist that we let go.
Yep. And those are, but we could also claim some, with learning loss, some of our teacher salaries and benefits under there, our core teachers.
Good presentation.
Well, I was just gonna follow up on that, because the plan, so I'd be interested in either a future budget meeting or something, so the programs that ESSER funds funded, and that budget is gone, is to evaluate the priority and how they're applying and helping. Because there was, when we first got that money, the agreement was when that money runs out, those programs would stop. That was very much communicated to Everyone's got this.
Pardon?
Can we expand
We-
nursing hours too and cut those
I
back?
think we
because
cut
he
the
has
nursing
funds?
hours back this year.
Right, and we cut the nursing hours back.
But that was a result of the ESSER funds.
Yeah.
We extended them because ESSER funds and we retracted them because they cut it off, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just did that.
But I can provide some information on how we used our ESSER funds and what those programs were.
Well, it's
And what,
something,
what's,
maybe
what,
it's something very
what we
valuable.
need, what's, I think what he's saying is what's remaining and how it's helping.
That would be
learning.
beneficial.
Yeah.
We can look at that. We'll take some research.
You can do that if you prefer it.
Yeah. not tomorrow.
In our spare time.
Yeah. Okay, any,
Any questions?
Any questions from
That was a
anyone?
great presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Keep those coming.
Is there any, there's a nine, 10,000 foot building question. Is there any group, blue group, because the system can't sustain itself. It's gonna fall apart.
Well,
So is there any high-level group someplace locked into Madison or Milwaukee or there's some stones in place, carving together, looking at how do we really, how should we really fund education? Because, you know, when we look at Act 10, we were told, okay, it's not gonna hurt, we'll just keep increasing it every year. And everybody's, oh, yeah, great. But then
There's
how
no
does
high
it-
level group. The last high level group was Joel Kitchen's Blue Ribbon Commission that was gonna try to figure it out. And there have been 23 deal with commissions that can't figure it out.
Joel pushed hard, he had a lot of
Yeah.
progress, but it went.
He worked hard, but,
He worked hard, but, yeah.
Even with the budget surplus, it fell on deaf ears.
But there are still groups working on this, like WASB is working on it, WASBO is. I was just on a Zoom with Dan Chapman, which you probably know, Township from WASBO. The Rural Schools Conference is dealing with this.
But they all push out,
Coalition.
they all push against, they all get to this brick wall where it goes no further.
What is that called?
A brick wall.
Oh, it's called the state legislature.
Oh,
Talk to your legislators. This is what I told the three gentlemen the other night at the referendum meeting.
Sorry.
Talk to your legislators.
so do we need to approve this tonight?
So yes, you need to recommend the preliminary budget or approve the preliminary budget.
Move to recommend approval of preliminary budget as presented.
Second.
What, further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Sue, do you have anything pending for legislative?
Just two quick things. One, for those who are up for election this year, I do have a new spring election guideline for school board members. If you are interested in this, if you plan to run in the spring, please feel free to pick up one of those. And then I just wanted to call attention to the last issue of the Wisconsin School News. There's an article in here from Boardman and Clark, a legal firm, on the latest on student speech and clothing. And it kind of rang about with me because of some of our previous discussions at this board. And I thought you might just want to be sure to take a look at that because it has some interesting information on that somewhat inflammatory topic.
What was that? That's a magazine we get from them, WASB magazine?
That's
Yeah,
School news.
School news, Wisconsin school news.
That just kind of came, didn't it?
maybe last week.
Yeah, within the last week. So,
Any good answers in there?
there are some good ones in there. They talk about a couple of scenarios and how they are different. And then also, I did mention in my board report that I did send out a letter to everyone in my region. You all should have gotten that regarding the WASB proposed legislative agenda. I would really appreciate any feedback you have. I've already heard from a Gibraltar board member, so take a look at that and let me know any of your thoughts before November. I will be going to the WASB board meeting in November when we'll be voting.
Thank you. We will look to approve the start college now and early college application credits for spring 2025.
Move to approve start college now and early college credit applications for spring 2025.
Second.
Third.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The fishing club.
Well, the Sevastopol Fishing Club, the advisor would be Robert Shartner, our new English teacher. A few things about the fishing club. I don't know anybody who's more passionate about fishing than Mr. Shartner. So our students have a great mentor, that's for sure, and very passionate about sharing his passion. But it's a club designed for students and coaches who are passionate about fishing and enjoying the outdoors. Mr. Shartner places a huge priority on safety, conservation, and fun. He really devotes a lot to teaching students about ice fishing safety and the importance of that. And then later on, part of his goals in the club is to give any member of our fishing club an opportunity for a ice event that would be led by a professional guide. So they would practice all their safety measures that they talked about, go out with a professional guide and have an experience. They also, he's offering 2 onshore events with the members. They'll meet every Thursday during lunch. The club members will have a mission, a say in what the mission is each year, so it'll change. He just gave an example. For example, if we have members who want to fish competitively, and that's a mission, he will work to make that happen. Any member, I tried to get in this club, but apparently you have to be a student, but club members benefit from, well, you get exclusive offers on fishing gear. And it's all name brand stuff, so I tried to sign up and he didn't let me do it. So it's for students only, but they got access to some of the best fishing gear, all name brand stuff. They can apply for scholarships through the Wisconsin Interscholastic Fishing Association. They'll have contests, any members who have interest in working in the fishing industry, so they're really passionate and they want to take this beyond. He has access to contacts and can help make that happen, so students can have opportunities in the summer as well as in the future to work in the fishing industry. The club will be self-sufficient. They'll take care of all their financial needs. He has fundraising ideas that he has used in his past experiences at Sturgeon Bay. And then before bringing the club to vote, he just wanted to get kind of a pulse on our student body who would be interested. And had 24 students already say that they'd be really excited to be a part of this if we think this is good for our school. But yeah, that's our Sevastopol Fishing Club.
Are we going to have fish in the cafeteria then?
If the budget gets worse, they're going to be providing Friday lunches in the
Farm to
cafeteria.
table?
Are you coming to clean them?
Yeah.
Rob, trust me, Rob knows how to flip.
So,
Maybe we can share that.
are they doing all their fishing off docks, or are they going out on boats?
So originally, it's 2 shore fishing events and then 1 ice fishing event right now.
What do you mean, too
From
short?
shore.
From shore, off the
Just
dock.
fishing on the shore. He's got some hot
But
spots.
what if they get to start going out on boats? What, is the school have any liability in that, or how would that be?
I don't think they do
Well,
anything.
they're not proposing that right now. So I think your point is if they start to propose boats, we would have to understand that. Is that fair? I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
I'm just,
Just from land.
From the little bit that I understand with his previous time at Sturgeon Bay, when they did have boats were supplied by families and stuff like that. The liability, I'd have to look into that.
He certainly has a lot
You
of
might know.
fishing experience.
Well, he's done it for 14 years, I think, right? He's been-
I see the stipend was 1,000 reduced to 457, that was,
Yeah, so I just asked him what he would consider or where he was at, and then, but he gave it up to me to kind of look at it, and then I was comparing to what other
so
advisors.
you compare to the other activities.
Yeah.
Good. Anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the fishing club.
Second?
Other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion 24, 25 student count.
This is just an informational item for you, something that we will continue to provide every year, showing that historical representation of our students. One of the pieces that we want to dig into as we get our feet on the ground a little bit more is to understand where the issues come from, what's the trends, are the students coming in from other districts, what's the influx, if we're losing students, where they're going, so that we just have a better understanding and a pulse to try to better support our community with our student population. So the positive, as Tasha mentioned earlier in her report, we're up 13 students this year. And it's a little bit over every area. We need to track that going across.
What was the area we were going ahead here a few years ago? That was like, 2 years ago was that?
Last year, they were about the 14
Yeah.
kindergarten teachers and,
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
I understand that those numbers are about a year or two ago, we were
In
thinking about
compar- in
cutting the
comparison,
number.
the numbers are up. So far, in tracking the numbers, there's always a bump in kindergarten. So that class that was smaller as 4K a couple of years ago is now as healthy as the other classes with the numbers that came in the following year as kindergartners.
Good. If there's nothing else on the student count, move to meeting times for board meetings. We had a couple of early meetings at 6 o'clock, and some people thought that was kind of nice. Met earlier, got out earlier. So some discussion on, do we want to move the meeting time to 6 o'clock? How does that work for people or not work for people?
works for me.
I can support that.
No problem.
We have some travelers, don't matter.
Keith?
I mean, if it's good for the group, then,
If you can't support that based
No, I
on
mean,
your job,
I
that
Yeah,
should
if
be
you
our
can't,
change.
that doesn't work
That's my opinion.
based
no,
on your job.
I may come to employees from work,
But your participation's.
or whatever. I mean, that's fine.
Would 6:30 be the best?
No, I was 6 is good.
Oh, okay.
But that's what we do.
We don't want to put a, I don't
No,
want to put
I-
a stress on somebody and to
No,
having
no, I-
to be in
no.
a extra big rush to get here.
It's not.
If it works for the group, if it works for the group collectively, it works. If it doesn't work for somebody, it
If
doesn't
there's
work.
an instance where something would fall off the bus someday, I can support that.
Maybe I raise this to that time, when public participation. Yeah, I would think it's more of an interview.
At 6.
At 6.
It could be easier moment than.
Well, I mean, from my aspect, like, I would rather probably just come here from work versus going home for a half hour and then having, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't give you enough time to be anyway, so, and then you get home. So from my perspective, 6 would be better because I can just go home from here. So,
Many years ago, this meeting were 8 o'clock. Long before I was on.
Well,
board.
and right,
Because we were
for discussion, right, if all of a sudden we find someone's job is becoming prohibitive, we can bring it back and change it again, or if we get feedback from the community that this massive supporting audience that we see every meeting can't make it, well, then.
if our attendance drops.
Right, if our attendance drops.
They used to do it at 8 o'clock, in this farming community. Well, then they backed it up to 7 o'clock, and we don't have real participation, so
Thursday to Wednesdays for.
I guess
So that was
So we
just
just-
Thursday or?
try.
Just listen and people start causing.
Try it if it doesn't work.
So we can table it, we can make a motion.
Well, I move that we change our start time for regular school board meetings to 6 PM.
Starting.
I would support that change,
Starting what?
starting next month.
I'll second.
Further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We should do a Facebook post on that, and we can talk about it on the radio next month, and
listening.
If we get a backlash.
Yeah, there's a backlash, we'll go back.
Then we'll go back.
Yeah, people don't,
I think everybody in the audience-
if it's not good, it's not good. Then we have this list of first readings of policies, and just for the sake of the audience listening, the policy committee has reviewed all of those. These, school board has received these to read prior to the meeting. So if anyone has questions or comments about any of the policies, you can do so at this time, or if there's a policy someone would like to pull out separately to discuss, we'll do that at this time.
I just had one question on the fund balance policy. You established that at 30% in the policy. Is that based on some,
It's based on an estimate that I believe 30% will hopefully keep us from short-term borrowing.
okay.
I wouldn't say that's a hard and fast rule because it will depend on other funding, but I think that's pretty.
So when we establish this as a policy, then we hold this.
I believe the
We
way
can
it's
change
worded, there's
policy
still
when we
a
can.
little room for adjustment.
Well,
Policies are not rules, policies are guidelines.
Yes, and we could discuss, force a discussion, because that would be a good discussion, I think, you know, once you.
And then I had a request to pull out policy 3120.08. So if someone wants to make a motion on the policies, removing that one, we'll discuss that one separate. Discuss and move on that one
So
separately.
moved. Pull up. Policy.
Tasha, do you have that so moved?
which one is it again? Which policy is it?
3120.08, employment of personal or co-curricular activity.
Something like move to approve the first reading of that, well, that's what he meant to say.
Not approve the first reading, right? You're withdrawing that from the first.
It should be, I move,
You might
if I
pull it
may,
out
I
for
move to
discussion.
approve the policies as presented, removing policy 3120.08.
For discussion.
Does that sound clear?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Question to discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then 3120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular, extracurricular activities. Who would like to take that?
I asked if we were able to have the conversation and discussion. The policy committee, with the first read, had chosen option 2 that gave the district administrator the district administrator or designee the responsibility for making the employment decision on coaching. And when I looked at all of the other policies in relationship to hires, that authority resides with the board. And so my recommendation would be to keep it consistent, that whether it's a teacher, support staff, bus driver, administrator, the decision ultimately resides with the board. So I'm making a recommendation that you would choose option 1 rather than option 2 on that policy.
Discussion?
I think that's good, that's been consistent with our past. We obviously, we expect the superintendent comes in with a recommendation, or the supporting staff members on why that's the recommendation, and the school board respects that.
So, does someone want to make a motion on that policy, choosing the other option, that the responsibility lies with the school board?
Move under policy 3120.08 to select option 1 under that policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion?
So that means for all hires.
Coaches.
Coaches.
Co-curricular, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I go on that because coaching athletics things in decision.
Well, when you think
I would not
about
like to put that on
Jerry.
the superintendent to,
Gives kids something to do.
who could touch the third rail of coaching.
when you think about it, we hire professional staff, we hire para, we hire support support staff, we hire bus drivers, we hire kitchen staff, we hire custodians. Kitchen staff and custodians have far less influence on the individual, they have far less interaction with students than coaches do. So coaches are kind of as important as professional staff.
And that's consistent with what we've done for the last 9 years. I mean, too, it's just, this policy came in, and so I think it's fair. And we're a smaller school, so it's not a bandwidth of people that we can't handle.
In a much larger school district or area, they might have that design as a group. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then the next group were policies that were technical changes, call versus telephone, board versus school board. So if someone would like a motion on those.
I would move to approve the technical changes for, as listed, the first and second reading on policies.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
But we're not supposed to ask the question from our meeting, does the board want us to put any technical changes here? Or can we, and committee along with the superintendent approve those along this way so it doesn't blow up the campus? I mean, a lot of this stuff is, but I mean, a lot of the technical changes are just word, new words from she, that, if, and she,
I don't think that will,
But anyway, so actually, I felt the way from the consulting firm I worked at a lot of schools on bringing this stuff to the board. Just really scratches grammar.
I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I
It's
do
not
know.
intent. It's not intent.
I have an opinion. Personally, it doesn't take us a lot of time, other than when we talk about what the process. But I like them coming to the board, honestly, because we have a very large volume of policies. And I'll tell you, 9 years ago, I printed binders like this, right? So it kind of gives you throughout the year an opportunity to refresh on that policy. So sometimes when it's a simple, happy, glad change, it forces me to read it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I tried that, you know. So that's why I don't think it's, and to be honest, it's a small burden to be on the school board. I think it'd be good to write the board.
And I would say that as part of my understanding of that is to drive
Quite a few
like
years
Dave
ago.
said, it's good to see those because it makes you read them and get maybe forward.
This is really good. I think that's another topic of discussion is we have so many policies. We have policies of policies.
Jerry, you came from the hospital.
No.
We have policies.
No, we had a role, no, we were actually destroying policy in here. Because we had too many policies. And in discussion, I think a lot of schools have a lot less policies. I think we're sure it's public. No, it's not having to do with public.
yeah, we're a public institution.
I just said a lot of other schools have fewer policies. They're public.
The two comments there. I was involved in the government in a very large effort to reduce policies under the military umbrella. So that's commendable in its own. And isn't Neola, who we're paying, shouldn't they be helping us establish which policies within our volume of policies maybe are not required anymore? Can we ask them those specific questions?
We do talk about it.
Because I do agree there's some policies that should be cleaned up and removed if not applicable. But I'm also saying it's a lot, but they're the policy experts that we're paying. So I would like the effort of trying to simplify policies because
There was one removed, wasn't there?
Yeah, we actually had a couple that were removed.
PO 4168.
one.
Well, that was 3 pages.
What? Is Neola the one that's creating all these policies? Do other schools who don't use Neola have as many policies?
So it really depends upon the district. Majority of the districts in the state of Wisconsin, I believe, go with Neola or WASB very few districts are on their own in creating policies, because what policy does as a board is it protects you against the laws that are required by the state legislature to ensure that we are in compliance with the requirements that we need to have. When you ask the question about whether or not Sevastopol has a lot of policies, I will just tell you as an administrator new to your system, I've gone to look for AP policies, to look for guidance on board direction, and we actually don't have a policy. So our policies are, I would say, in a really good spot. We don't have, in my opinion, an abundance of them, but I do think that it's an opportunity to have a conversation with Neola when we look at our spring update to say, and that's what they do. So when we update twice a year, what they're bringing to us is the recommendations from legal guidance in the state of Wisconsin and then federal and state mandates that we're required to take a look at. So they do that for us, and they set the parameters in which we operate the ship. So the policies inform the decisions that we make as administrators and keep us in compliance so that we're not,
So how do you know we have a policy?
I have to look for it.
But how do you know, but you only have to have the exact vernacular to find that policy maybe in another language. It's very, how do you, I wouldn't even get, like, we must have 1,000 policies.
Are you able to call Neola and say, I have this question in my organization, which of my policies
Oh, yeah.
apply?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that one of the services?
I posed a couple of questions to Jean before our last meeting, and she addressed those in our meeting. They weren't something that had to be done immediately. One of them was the issue that we had with staff leave that I proposed to her.
Okay, so she has help.
Yeah,
Unless-
I'm thinking if folks have questions, we could certainly have Jean join us at a board meeting.
Jean is our
on
new
Zoom,
rep.
and then you could pose your questions to her.
I agree the policy manual is a little bit cumbersome. Sometimes I go to look for something and I have to look under 2 or 3 sections to find it, but I can eventually find it. When I first came on the school board, and Sue will remember this, the policies were all done in-house. And we had a paper binder that was this thick, and every month Cindy Gisty would type up the new policies and give them to us, and we had to insert them into our binder. They weren't online for anybody to look at. So while I agree this new thing seems sometimes cumbersome, it probably is protecting us. And as far as these technical changes coming to us, I think I agree, they don't take a lot of time, and there was a time before I was on the school board, but when I was listening, that the school board people started questioning, you're approving all these policies, I don't even know if you're reading them. So it's good to bring it forward and say, here, we're looking at these.
You could ask Neola, especially in some of our past discussions, ask Neola if they're taking advantage of an AI large language model and training all this into an AI. I'm serious.
No,
You could type in any question and it would refer to the policies that you could have.
That'd be nice.
That-
It's a searchable document anyway, isn't it?
Right.
But AI thinks that on it a little bit, so it can actually pull it together. I mean, that's what's happening in the world right now. I'm not sure we want to pay for that, but they might be doing that.
So, did we vote on that, Tasha?
No, we're still in discussion.
Yeah, no, you voted on it.
And the discussion came after. Okay. So we've moved on to the resolution authorizing a taxable tax and revenue application promising note for cash flow purposes in an amount of not to exceed $1,500,000. Short-term borrowing.
Yes, so this is the line of credit approval. The line of credit that we would have is through Nicolay National Bank, the amount of $1.5 million. The closing would occur on November 1st, 2024, with maturity no later than 12 months later. The interest rate would be 6.275%. So that translates to, if we take out all of it, about $7,800 a month. So it is expensive to do this.
But we wouldn't take it all out, correct?
We would only take what we
We
need.
take out what we
I mean,
need.
that's why we're doing a line
As
of
soon as we
credit
get
rather than a
payment
short-term
in,
borrow.
We can pay it off,
Right.
right? So A hard question, and we don't have a projection on how many months we would be, because I mean, right now, there's a low dip expected.
Right now, we're looking at maybe mid to late November. I'm hoping to push that more into December, but, so 1 to 2 months there. And then because of the defeasance, we should be able to ride it out through August. We don't have to fund our defeasance account right away. We can keep that in the general fund until we receive the August settlement. The following year, if this continues to occur, which we do expect it to continue, we are looking at twice a year. And with the June 30th year end, we would have to fully draw that amount in order to use it through till August. So it would be fully drawn in June.
25,
Yeah, in 25-26. So not this budget year, but the following.
Fully draw in June and then pay back, when does our money flow in? January?
August, middle to late
June,
August. Yep.
So we fully draw for June, July, August, 3-4 months. I mean, still not 12 months. I mean, it's not 12
It's
months.
not 12 months, right.
$700-800 bucks.
Right.
That's all I was just, wow.
Yep.
And that's the other reason that there's more focus on our fund balance going forward.
Yep.
is
And we will continue to
we save a
monitor
few
cash
dollars here
flows.
and there to help that, so.
Yeah, we will continue to monitor cash flows. We will continue to look at this regularly.
And for anyone listening, majority of schools in the state of Wisconsin do this, unless you're a minority school, get all your money from the state, which is, there's not many that do that, correct?
Many school districts do this, and, we will work to build that fund balance back up so we don't have to. It just
Well,
will
what
take
our
time.
auditors told us all these years, that the average school fund balance is 25%.
Mhm.
So it's data that we'll talk about.
So,
I move to approve the resolution number 2425006, resolution authorizing a taxable tax and revenue anticipation promissory note to cash flow purposes in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million.
Second.
questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That concludes our regular business. I will take a motion to convene to executive session.
I move that we go into
Second.
Roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried at 8:17 PM.